Hi friends, welcome back to Mule 4 series of learning videos. I am Siva.thankamanee, an integration technical architect. Yesterday we have seen DataWeave, particularly dealing with how we can iterate objects over the map, and particularly iterating elements at the parent level, at the child level, and then how to render the data using map operator. But in this video, we are going to see on the fields that are being populated in the XML or JSON, and what are the different techniques to deal with those fields. That's what we are going to see. So we will be seeing 6 different aspects of how we can deal with the fields. The first one, how to exclude the fields, or you want to exclude one particular field or a set of fields from the input payload so that you don't need to render all the fields manually. And also you want to exclude empty fields. I mean, if they are null, you don't want to display it, so you want to exclude it. Then third one is excluding fields conditionally. Suppose you want to exclude the complete object, or you want to exclude one particular field based on certain conditions. And sometimes you might have a price with the dollar symbol, and then you might want to remove it and then format it with some specific type. So we are going to see that as well. And finally, we will be seeing how to have a dynamic key value pair. So when you have a set of key value pair object, you might want to either include them, exclude them based on the conditions. So we will be seeing all these 6 techniques today. Let's get started. Since today's topic is dealing with individual fields, the use case doesn't matter. But anyways, we are going to take some meaningful use case XML and then see the technique so that you understand better by looking at simple examples. So we are going to take foods XML today, and foods is a parent tag that contains a child tag called food, and we have different food: English muffin, French toast, and home style breakfast. So these are the 3. It's very simple, like name, price, description, and calories. So I have taken this so that we can understand easily. So this is what we are going to configure in metadata, and then we are going to deal with the DataWeave transformation. So I have come up with a Mule 4 project where it already has a HTTP listener and the log that displays a payload received successfully. And after that we have a DataWeave transformation. So initially we are starting with the empty transformation which displays the payload as such, and it's already started. And let's see how this works. So we have reflected the same input XML in the form of JSON. So don't worry about JSON or XML, but the data are identical, both input and output. So now let's start with the first one, how to exclude the field without manipulating it. So let's see this. So now we are going to iterate the payload. So let's say result, or let's call it as result, and the payload foods dot star food. So you've already seen why we need asterisk symbol in front, and we are going to iterate it by using map. So food comma index, and we are going to have what you call so food colon food minus description. So we are simply having the result tag, and we are having one field, and we are just displaying the whole food object, and we are introducing the minus symbol with a field name. Let's see how this works. Now you can see there are 4 fields that appear inside the food object, but here we have name, price, description, calories, and phone. But we have all the data except description because we have excluded here. So this allows us to simply deal with the whole object and excluding one field. Otherwise, you assume that you have the XML with 25 fields, then you need to render it one by one, which can be avoided simply by using this technique. And again, we have seen yesterday, in order to avoid this complex structure, we are not going to have this result. And instead of that, we are going to have parentheses to consider them as objects instead of a specific field structure. And here also we are going to remove this food field, and we are going to treat it as an object directly. So that we are only dealing with data now, instead of worrying about the fields and manipulating it with additional data. So we saved it. Let's see what the result is. So now everything is unnecessarily removed and you have only food details. If you want, you can have the heading foods if it is necessary for the project. I will leave it to you. So now this is reflected as is without the specific field description. So this is about how we can simply exclude one particular field or set of fields from the given object. So now we are going to investigate one other problem that we will be having in our project. So I'm going to introduce phone here because so this particular object doesn't have phone. So under food, phone doesn't make any sense, but don't worry about it. We don't care. Or we can assume that if this food is to be ordered, you need to call this phone number. If this food is needed, you need to call other phone number. We can assume simply like that. So now here we have no phone number here. So maybe it's only available for in-store pickup. So in that case, let's see how the output appears. You see here the output comes as null, which is weird. So we have an additional instruction in DataWeave which can take away fields that have null values. So we have a special instruction here which is called skip null on everywhere. This is what we are going to do here. So immediately after output type application/JSON, we are going to indicate skip on null equal to everywhere, which means all the tags to be considered only when there are having some legal values and not null. Let's save this. So let's wait for getting restarted. It's restarted. Let's see. So now we can see here wherever there is a null value, it disappears. Sometimes you don't want to deliberately display null values. Sometimes it comes handy. So you can use simply, this is an instructions to the DataWeave, skip null on equal to everywhere. It's very simple to remember. Now we will jump on to the third aspect on how we can exclude the field conditionally. So now in order to investigate that, we will remove this particular one and then render all the details. So name, food.name, price, food.price, and we have description, food.description, phone, food.phone, and finally we have calories, food.calories, and now we need to have a curly brace because these have to be individually rendered. So we have given all the fields. Let's go back and run it. So now we have all the fields as expected. So now we need to remove this field based on certain criteria. Now let's make up a criteria that if the description contains only 50 or less characters, it should be available. Otherwise, it should be removed. So let's take this condition hypothetically. So in order to have this criteria, we need to use if else, and in Mule 3.8 we used when otherwise. So here we will use if. So let's copy the field. So we are going to use size of function, which is used to find out the number of characters in the given string. So if the size less than or equal to say 40, and we are going to display this, else we are going to display null. Since we have this skip null on everywhere, and this is going to take it out completely, or if you simply want it, you can make it as blank. But let's consider that our use case requires to remove, because we have been seeing about how to exclude fields conditionally. So we have this size of food description is less than or equal to 40. We display it, else we make it null so that it will disappear from the food object. Let's save this. It's restarted. Let's run it. So now you can see the description appears for only the first one, which contains less than 50 characters, and second and third has exceeded 50, so it's completely removed from the object. So let's remove this just for verification purpose. Now we can see the description appears, and then the same way you can remove this. This appears. So this is one example which I feel, I'm sure you will require this when you are working on multiple use case. At least one of them will require this. It will come handy. So let's verify again. So this will remove the field with conditions. So now we are going to take another use case with price. So you can note down the price has a different format in the different tag which is unstructured. So we want to make it structured, and you can also note that the price contains a dollar symbol when it comes in, and then we are going to streamline and see how we are going to format it. So since it appears with the dollar, it's going to consider a string, and then we are going to see how to treat it as a number. So let's deal with the price. So in the price, we are going to use replace function. So we are going to say replace dollar with the blank. So however, when you give replace, replace is coming in yellow, which means it's a reserved word. But it complains there is an error called unable to resolve reference of dollar. So as you know, MuleSoft uses dollar symbol to replace given property into the project components. So it's giving error since we cannot find out the reference towards this. So you need to escape this dollar whenever there is a reserved feature is used. So you need to use $, and now the error is gone. So now the dollar symbol should be reduced, removed. And you can see the price contains dollar symbol in the input, and then the same is removed in the output. So now we have a next problem. So here it has 4 decimal places, and here we have only 1, and here it has .00. So it's kind of unstructured. Let's see how to streamline this. So in order to convert it into the number format, we need to say as number, and then you convert it into string. And in order to have this format, you want to have this as a specific format, then you need to have a JSON-like structure, which is an instruction to the DataWeave to format the specific field. So the structure is simple. So you have a key value pair, the key being format, and the value being actual type of data which you want to format, which is indicated something like this. I will tell you the meaning of this later, but you can follow this. It's very simple. So you have a mini JSON like format with a key value pair. The key can either be enclosed in double quote or you can give without it, both works. And then value should be the format of the data type. But since we are formatting, it will try to convert this space into a number and string with this format, which will result in an error. So you always need to enclose this whole data into a parenthesis before you manipulate that format. Let's save this. Should be restarted now. Let's run it. Now we can see it is transformed into this value, and you see that .00 is removed, and this is 4.5, and this is the 05 is removed because we have only 2 decimal places. But still this is kind of unstructured. This is still not working, or it's working, but it doesn't have the necessary format that we want. So we always want 2 decimal place always in order to have this proper structure. So we are going to replace it with a hard-coded value called 00. So it allows to mandatorily have the value 0 in case that particular precision does not have the value. Let's save this. Let's run it. Now you can see it's structured with always with the 2 decimal place, either with .00 if it doesn't have the value. But even here, if you say 4.5, it's transformed into 50, and this is 16.95. So we brought it into the format that we need. So this is basics, and most of the people who already worked in Java knows this for sure. And if you started the MuleSoft directly, or if you are recently working for recent 1 or 2 years, you might not know the intricacies of this. That's the reason why I'm explaining this. Sorry if this is over explaining. And I have one more thing to format here. Suppose in case of banking process, you want to display certain value into the check. You need to have a predefined value so that people are not manipulating with the numbers. So you need to have a value which is very long, preceded with zeros, and trailing decimal places trailing with zeros, so that you have certain format. If you want to achieve that, you need to go and then have this replaced with 0000, so that it will bring it into the specific format. And whenever it doesn't have 0, it will be having trailing zeros. Let's save this. Let's run it. Let's try it again. Yeah. So you can see it's now having preceding zeros, so that if you want to have a certain minimum number of characters on the check check value, you can have it, and this will automatically adjust in case if all the positions have the value, it will display without zeros, and it will automatically adjust it, and it will, if there are more number of characters, it will accommodate it. So it's very simple formatting. Now we are going to see some concept called dynamic key value pair. So you want to have this key value pair appearing only based on certain criteria. Let's see how to do that. So here we have the entire objects, we need to treat it only based on certain condition. So you can either do it by filtering, and or you can use some other technique. Let's see how filtering works. So suppose we want to do this filter here. So filter dollar dot or we want to filter based on the payload dot foods dot food. It should not be empty, so we will say is empty and then we will put negation. So you want to make this object appear only when the input contains food tag, and if it is empty we are not going to display it. This has some drawback. Let's see how this works. So now you don't see any effect because the food tag contains some elements. So instead of food, I'm saying breakfast, or let's say menu. So end menu. So let's see. So now you have null object, obviously, so because it's working correctly because it doesn't have the proper hierarchy and it doesn't start with foods, so it's giving null. And this will be useful in case you are handling multiple sections. In one of the sections you want to filter only non-empty records, you can do so. Or otherwise we can go for some other. There are a lot of techniques provided by DataWeave, so you don't need to worry about it. So what we are going to do is we are going to have if the same criteria, we are going to have it under if. So instead of, we are going to remove the filter and we are going to use this criteria. So if not empty, you have this rendered, and you are going to say else. We are going to render another object called foods. No food details in the given request. Please verify. So we have kind of if-else structure. So if certain condition is satisfied, you display one section. If not, you give error. You can either handle it in the error handling, which is too tedious. So you can handle it so a person who are looking at it can understand easily. So let's save this. So now you see here when you have menu, it says foods, no food details in the given request, please verify. And you can even treat it in a proper way. For example, you say status error, and you can say message. So you can bring it into proper structure instead of having complicated error handling techniques. So there you go. So now let's see with the actual foods tag. Here we will end with foods tag properly. So now it gives the actual transformation from the true section. So this is called a dynamic key value pair, and this has so many use. You can use different sections, even you can use this if else inside when you are handling the specific field. And so this handling of this is called a dynamic key value pair, because the entire section is called object which contains key value pair. So that's the end of the video, friends. I have a little bit explained more in detail with slow pace, so that this will help and benefit both experienced team leads, architects, as well as the beginners. So sorry if I've explained it too much, apologies. So hope you liked it and felt it's useful, and if so, please hit thumbs up and subscribe my videos. Soon I will come up with more interesting and useful topics. Thanks for watching my video. Bye.